The night was pitch black. Sprinting through the thick wood, a young boy stops to turn, only seeing a distant flicker of torchlight and the yells of men. To his right, he hears hounds nearing through a clearing. A woman in the distance screams, "Don't stop running!" The boy snaps his attention to the pitch-black fog and runs. His feet, scraped and cut from the jagged rock beneath the damp soil, sprint headlong. He runs clumsily through the forest. The dog's snarling draws nearer and nearer. The boy, determined to escape, tunes out the sounds of everything around him and can only hear the stomps of his own feet across the ground. He begins to see the moons shining through the thick wood. Soon I am to leave the thick wild and have my chance to escape, the boy thinks. Suddenly he is swooped from his feet. "Got 'em, boys! Gather the search crew." The boy looks at the shadowed figure in horror. His heart sinks. I can't go back. I won't. Not when I'm so close, he thinks in desperation. He screams a bellowing roar from deep within his core. I'm never going back. Suddenly, the boy feels a wet warmth across his chest. The moonlight illuminates the right side of his face, and he can make out an expression of agony. He looks down to see a crimson rock lodged within the man's chest. The man coughs a violent spurt of blood into the boy's face before collapsing to the ground. The boy falls to his feet. Before he can gather what happened, he sees the distant torchlight nearing and the dogs barking madly. He quickly runs forward, eventually reaching a thin stream. He crosses through and sees a passage through the thicket into a mountain pass. He runs forward. Freedom at last, he says in quiet, sincere joy. The boy continues running. He reaches a hilltop overlooking a valley. He hasn't eaten for days, his legs bruised, his feet torn to shreds. Finally, his legs give out atop the hill. He crawls toward a massive tree to finally rest. He feels faint, and suddenly the agony of the past few days floods in. He can barely stay conscious. He looks up at the tree, and as his vision wavers, the shade seems to flicker like the torchlights that had danced through the forests, hunting him for days. The boy decides to close his eyes. Surely they must be gone now, and I can move no further, he says weakly to himself. Suddenly, he hears distant footsteps coming from the other side of the hill. He snaps his neck forward, regaining consciousness, but he can't get up. Panicked, the boy pulls himself halfway up before collapsing onto the ground. He mumbles, "They found me." How? I was so close. I never stopped. Why? Why won't they let me be? Tears run down the boy's cheeks, clouding his vision. Too exhausted to wipe them away, he can barely make out a figure with long straw-blonde hair, fading to grey, pale-faced and clad in dark black armor. Unnaturally black, with a ghastly axe strapped to his back. The weapon is massive, the size of a man. The boy thinks to himself, this must be some sort of terrible villain sent to hunt me. Before he can think further, his vision goes dark. Exhaustion finally takes him. The boy awakens. He suddenly jumps to his feet before instantly collapsing, bumping the back of his head on the tree. He looks up. He's under the same tree atop the hill. He breathes a sigh of relief. The pale figure must have been a dream. "You have a good nap?" The boy screams and turns left, seeing the figure resting carelessly on his back, overlooking the mountain valley. "Great view. You picked a great spot to rest. Although it's pretty easy to spot movement up here. If I was on the run, I wouldn't hide here. Future reference." The boy tries to run but falls forward. The pale figure casually gets up, moving with a strange elegance, and walks toward the boy, setting him upright against the tree. Easy there, my boy. I'm not here for you, just traveling through. Looks like you've been through a bit of a mess recently, eh? I treated your feet, though I don't think you'll be able to walk on them for a while. I could have made a castle from the stones I pulled out of them. The pale figure chuckles to himself. The boy looks up at the man crouched over him. Stay back, stay back. The boy begins to cry. The pale man moves back, hands open and close to his chest. Easy, easy. I'm not here to hurt you. Just couldn't leave a boy dying under a tree. My honor could never allow it. Have you eaten anything? The boy looks at the man with distrust. What if you're pretending? What if you're taking me back? The man takes a few steps back and sits down facing the boy. Well, if I was going to take you anywhere, I probably would have done so when you were asleep. Look, it's nearing dusk. You've been asleep for hours. I don't know what happened, but I can tell you this. Whatever it was, it must have been truly terrible. I really want to help, but I can leave you with some food and be on my way. I just need to make sure you're okay. The boy reaches out his hand. Please, could I have some food? I'm so hungry. The pale man jumps to his feet and gives a warm smile to the boy. The boy examines his features. The man is massive, easily the tallest fellow he's ever seen. Though his features are youthful, there's an agelessness to him. Vibrant blue eyes like those of an old man, and faint wrinkles between his smile and brow. Everything about him seems unnatural, yet his smile feels genuine. I want to put my faith in this strange fellow, the boy thinks. For the first time in my life, I feel this unusual man atop the hill is someone I can truly believe. This is the first genuine kindness in this life. I've been on the road for quite some time, but here, the last of my dried meat. The pale figure delicately places the food in the boy's hand, clasping it gently and pushing it toward him. The boy quickly rips into the meat, devouring it within seconds before choking slightly and letting out a weak cough. Easy there. Have some water to wash it down. The pale man hands the boy a canteen. The boy drinks voraciously, down to the last drop, before dropping his hand. The canteen clinks and bounces off a root before the man gently picks it up again, smiling. Well, now that we've broken bread, I'd consider us friends. What's your name, boy? The boy looks up, confused. Not because he's never heard of names, but because he's never heard his own. Of course, names are common, he thinks, but how can I tell him I don't know mine? With embarrassment, he says weakly, I don't know. I've never heard anyone call me by name. The pale man gestures for him to sit beside him. The boy nods. He takes a seat, and the man wraps an arm around his back, giving a few light taps. That's all right. Let's not worry about what your old name was. I'll give you a name, a really heroic one. Then when the world tells stories about you one day, you can tell them Primum of Nolens gave you this name. The boy looks with anticipation. A heroic name. Any name would be enough, but a heroic one. From this day forward, you are Elpis. The boy tilts his head slightly, before letting out a disappointed, "Oh." Primum stands up in mock shock. What's wrong with Elpis? It's a great name. It means hope. Every hero needs to give hope. Elpis lets out a small chuckle at Primum's dramatic gestures. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I just thought it would. I just thought it would be really cool. Like Gorthok the Destroyer. Elpis lets off a small chuckle at the name. Primum starts waving his hands, and in a jesting, mocking tone responds, "Really, the boy who can't move 2 feet wants to be called Gorthok. You want to raid hamlets and steal treasure instead of being a hero. Because that's what a Gorthok does. The audacity of you. Doesn't have a name, and now he's suddenly a critic. Fine, then. Name yourself." Primum mockingly turns his back, but glances over his shoulder with another warm smile at Elpis. Elpis can't help but smile back, and, in turn, gives his first genuine thanks, from the bottom of his soul. "No, old man. It's perfect. I love it. Thank you." Primum's warm smile turns into a frown, and he quickly spins around, pointing his finger before sarcastically yelling, "Old man! I'm in the prime of my youth, you limp cretin. When you reach my age, you'll wish you looked as gallant as me. Women swoon when they see my charm, I'll have you know." Elpis can't help but burst into a fit of laughter. Primum raises his brow and leans in close, making an exaggeratedly annoyed face, forcing Elpis to laugh even harder. Finally, a smirk comes to Primum's face, and Elpis musters some words. "He. Well, if you aren't old, I don't think you'd have to defend yourself so much. But you are a lot older than me, so in my book, that definitely makes you an old man." Primum dramatically steps back, striking a heroic pose as he moves a few steps away. "Well, in that case, I guess everyone is old to you then," Elpis quips back. "No, just you." Primum lets out his dramatic brow raise again. "Well then, I fix you up, and you've been nothing but rude. Fine. I must be on my way. Good day." Primum casually starts walking down the hill. Elpis quickly lets out a desperate, "Wait!" Primum turns with a mischievous grin. "I'm just kidding. It's starting to get dark. Shall we head out? I figure it'd be safest for us to travel at night. Not sure if your pursuers are still after you, but it's better to avoid that risk until we can get you to a township. Just so you know, we're at least a week from the nearest village with your legs in that condition. I'm going to have to carry you. You'll need to brace yourself for the fact that it'll probably be at least 3 days until you can put pressure on your feet. Probably a couple of weeks before you can start walking. We'll take our time crossing the valley, but I need you to trust me. Promise to do as I say for now." Elpis nods. Primum acknowledges the nod and hurries toward the tree, grabbing most of his armor and quickly fitting it on. He then picks up a well-worn leather rucksack, before finally grabbing his oversized weapon. Elpis had noticed this was a rather cumbersome, menacing weapon when he first laid eyes on it. But now that he gets a closer look, it looks even more imposing. A great double-sided axe adorned and engraved with sinister hands, from the haft to the shoulder. The grips are wrapped in unusual red leather, and in the center of the pole holding the double blades together is a ghastly face, its mouth wide open in horror and agony. The blades themselves are remarkably crafted, deep black metal, unchipped and unmarked. Elpis's attention is drawn to the axe. How could someone as humorous and kind as this man have such an ominous weapon? He can't shake the feeling that it's somehow familiar, that he's seen something like it before. But he can't distinguish where. Despite the weapon, he can do nothing but place his trust in Primum. For now, he's too weak, and he'd rather not let his thoughts linger too long on what could be. Not until he's sure he's far, far away from his pursuers. Primum notices Elpis's fixed gaze on his axe as he slings it across his shoulder. He looks toward it, then calmly rises and walks toward Elpis. "You still hungry?" Elpis, confused, replies, "But I thought I had eaten the last of the food." Primum knocks on the tree. I'm sure this big old thing's got a snack for the road. Elpis looks even more confused. How? It's an oak tree. It has no fruit. Primum crosses his arms, looking down at Elpis like a great philosopher teaching a pupil. There are two things in this world, truth and ignorance. The only way to know if something is true is to observe it. You say there is no fruit from an oak tree, but have you ever checked to find out if that's the truth? Primum knocks on the tree again, slightly harder. Suddenly, two misshapen dark green fruits fall to the ground. Primum smirks. You see? Now you know an oak tree can bear fruit. Elpis looks confused, then flustered. He exclaims, How did you do that? Oaks have acorns. That's the truth. All of them. They don't have fruit. This doesn't make any sense. Primum just laughs as Elpis is still trying to unravel how he managed to get fruit from an oak. He picks the boy up and sandwiches him between his leather bag, fitting his legs between the straps like a saddle and guiding his hands through the stirrups of his chest plate. Perfect fit. Let's go, Gorthok. Elpis turns to look at the fruit. Wait, Primum. You forgot about the fruit. I changed my mind. I don't think it would taste very good. You went through that whole speech, and you won't even grab the fruit. I bet it was some rotten fruit you got from your bag, and you're just messing with me. Primum laughs and walks down the hill toward the sunset. Nope. Don't carry fruit on the road, my boy. That was always there. Stop messing with me, Primum. How did you do it? Primum, still laughing, begins to taunt Elpis. Honestly, Gorthok, even the savages would make fun of such a ridiculous name. You feel no embarrassment from that? Goddess bless this child. Elpis presses his face next to Primum's, giving an angry pout. And so two unlikely people met underneath the oak tree that bore fruit.